Welcome to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. And actually joining me from Perth, Australia, which is across the pond, quite a ways, the wrong pond, the other pond down there, south, is Paul Marwood. Now, I've known Paul for how many years, Paul?
Oh, wow. Probably 11 years now.
11. So he used to live here near San Diego in Escondido. And we're going to be speaking about his collaborative book. You want to hold it up? It's your soul love book, Igniting the Spark Within. And that is an Amazon book. You can get that off of Amazon. And Paul contributed a section or a chapter to that book. There are many authors in there who've contributed a chapter, but we're going to focus more on Paul's chapter because Paul has a very interesting transformational business. And it's under Paul Marwood, MARWOOD.com. For all my listeners, please go there. Look at the services and the events, and you can book a call with Paul. And after you're finishing listening to this podcast, you're going to want to do it. I can almost guarantee you. So, Paul, I'm going to start out with just a little bit of background about you so that our listeners know. He's the founder of Solution Meditations and the co-founder of Universal Sphere and 4 other next generation soul activations. Paul has been an international teacher and a guide of his modalities and the Akashic Records for more than 12 years, living his life through more unlimited aspects of his heart. His focus is to support conscious leaders, visionaries, and everyday people to consciously access the unified field. His vision is to make the consciousness more easily available to everyone by using guided meditations. These rapid shifts of your consciousness and awareness outside the box, transforming your life with practical solutions and possibilities that you never thought possible. Well, it is about the unifying field and of energy and tapping into that. And that meditation is, we know, one good way to do that. And that's what we're going to start off with is, you contributed just one section to the book, and the book has got, like I said to everybody, lots of contributors. And there's a lot of truth in the stories that make up the book.
Yes.
Could you tell the listeners what the focus of the book is, because it's called Soul Love? They may not get that, or they may get that. And a little about yourself and a few of the other contributors in the book that you worked with to kind of put this together.
Most certainly, Greg. The Soul Love book is really about inspirational stories from myself and the other 11 authors. We're really everyday people sharing our deep truths about what happened, and in our experiences, but in the stories are really based in a huge transitional moment in our lives, where we had to really, one would say, dig deep or what we did. We're sharing the tips and tools that we use to be able to make the changes, make our way through those challenges. And so there really is a collection, because each chapter is fairly short. So it's really a collection of beautiful, short, inspirational stories, literally perfect, to read just before you go to sleep, because it leaves you with that wonderful, warm feeling, of our human success, as we're guided by our soul, and the triumph through the challenges. And, as I said before, sharing the tools and tips that we did or used to overcome those challenges, and grow. And so, and the benefit of the multi-author book is that, we all have a very different feel, event, and most likely, if someone chooses to purchase the book, you'll resonate or relate to multiple authors, within the book. So not necessarily all of them, but, and you can probably see or feel or have a similar experience in your life to the story that you're reading. And hopefully there's beautiful message in the book that can help guide you in that moment, to help you move forward in your life. And so what a beautiful, words to read just before you go to sleep and literally give you sweet dreams.
It certainly has a lot of stories in it. You have your own story in there. Um, and when we talk about soul, the definition is really kind of, I think, important for listeners, right? Because it's talked about a lot. I know I sign all my emails in spirit, and I often have
Mhm.
times people come back going, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I think, what do you mean by soul? Love. So we hear about our soul, and the concept of the souls is usually defined, if somebody went and looked it up, that it's an immaterial essence or animated principle or actuating cause of an individual, right? And that is a definition I took off the internet. Now,
Yeah.
how do you and your group of co-authors define soul? And how would our listeners connect with this part of our being or their being?
Great question. Okay, so I'll share my understanding of the soul. Essentially, that's it's an essence of consciousness that comes into our form as we're literally still in our mother's womb. It's a consciousness that enters our physical body. It gives us animation. It gives us breath. It gives us awareness, of who we are and the world around us. Um, you know, so one could say that we really are, if you take a step back, that we are really a great being of light having a human experience. So literally, as you and I put on clothes every day, one could say the soul puts on a human body for a lifetime, to have beautiful experiences. And really, one people also talk about this as being the earth being the schoolhouse of the soul. So we have these beautiful experiences that we manifest in this realm of duality as well as free will. And so we get to experience a large range: happy, sad, good, bad, and we can grow and learn from that as a soul essence. And then, of course, if you take it that step further and talk about having multiple lifetimes, we can then choose different aspects, completely different lifetimes, and have vastly different experiences. Much like, as you said, the authors have their different stories to tell. We're all different and we get to experience the differences in those areas. I think essentially the authors in general, talk about the soul also in a similar way as this beautiful essence of knowingness, a consciousness that guides us. It is us. Our soul, one could say, is that very quiet voice in the background, always there to guide you and I and everyone. We don't tend to listen to it quite so often because we're more engrossed in the intensity of our senses and the physical 3D world. But the beautiful thing I see about the soul is, the soul has awareness outside of our what we know and what we can sense in this moment in time. So when we start to learn and tap into that, we really can start to learn to be more aware or have a knowingness about things that the logical mind can't perceive because it doesn't have the data.
Do you think
So
that, do you think, Paul, that tapping into our intuition is the soul speaking to us?
most
Okay.
definitely,
Okay. Because I
you could
think that
say,
might put it in more terms where people could say, okay, I got a gut feeling. I had this kind of whatever, and it was guiding me to do this and not that. And because of this, something really good happened. And so my soul was speaking to me through these. I mean, we look at, you can get it auditorily, you can get it through a feeling. Everybody talks about the ways in which you get messages, right?
yeah,
And I think that it's so important that people recognize that most likely when you listen to your intuition, you're listening to your soul. Yeah?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, most definitely. And how many times when you've listened to your intuition, literally most cases, we can make misinterpretations of what we're getting, but that aside, pretty much 100% of the time, when you followed your gut instinct, your intuition, it's always given you the right guidance, led you the right way, brought you into the right situation, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So, look, you had a really interesting experience, and I think this is one that kind of grounds your chapter in and really brings people close to home with you. And you defined yourself in the book as an engineer, you're a hardworking guy, you say you're a pretty boring husband, very logical. And then you spoke about the fact that this very transformative day that changed everything for you and awakened you to a spiritual listener. I'd like you to convey the story about your accident. Speak with the listeners about your vivid dreams that you've had since this particular accident, because this was a defining moment for you. It's not a defining moment, it was a defining event in your life for you. Yes?
Yeah, most definitely. One could say almost like having two lifetimes in one physical lifetime, because that before was very much as you said, Greg, the logical engineer doing everything as per one would say normal, going to school, going to university, get married, get your house, do those kind of regular aspects, but I had no real awareness of spirituality. In fact, honestly, I kind of thought spiritual people were kind of didn't really achieve an awful lot, didn't have a very good opinion of them, unfortunately, and then literally a car accident took place. I was on the side of the road. Another car collided with my car at around about 80 k's an hour. It should have killed me, but didn't. I was walking around outside the car after the event. The paramedics were scratching their head because, as I said, I shouldn't have been even walking around. And since then, that really created what one might say a Kundalini awakening. It was a fairly rapid spiritual awakening, a little bit traumatic in that sort of year and a half, 2 years. There was a lot of shifts that took place. Literally, you mentioned, Greg, about the vivid dreams, etc. I went to a place where suddenly I had this awareness where, I was having past life experiences. And if people believe in past lives, very vivid, living it literally like you and I, as real as the world we are in here today. I still remember most of those. Literally, I can explain to you in great detail, each of those experiences. Speaking non-earthly languages, astral traveling, and so much more. And that whole piece, when I went from a world where I was just aware of the physical and computers and being a control system engineer, suddenly having out of body experiences, I had no frame of reference to that, so it was quite unsettling. And the beauty about it is, looking back at that, was there was so much wisdom that I learned in that period of time, and still continue to do so. But in that period of time, in the case of the past lives, learning what my experiences were and what the lessons were that were being shown to me. So I suddenly ended up in school, one would say spiritual school or universe school, but with the fast forward button held down. Things were happening really quickly. And honestly, it was, thank goodness, that a friend came into my life that could guide me through the process and help me understand this, what we would call a spiritual emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, honestly, in some respects, there's a high likelihood I would have probably checked myself into a lunatic asylum, because my actions and reactions and my awareness of my world was very unsettling, because I didn't really know for a little while who I was and where I was. I kept being here in the world, like here talking to you, and then suddenly I would literally check out and be somewhere else, even though I'm physically sort of talking to you. And so, that was very disturbing with me, very unsettling. I didn't really know where I was.
Well,
But thank goodness. Well,
for somebody who had been so stable in their life to seek
yeah,
such a dramatic shift, I'm sure that many of the people around you, including probably your parents and others, thought, "Has this guy gone wacko?"
yeah,
And like you said, should you have been institutionalized? But I think most importantly, you weren't, and you learned to live with this experience and what you called the expansion of awareness. And
yeah.
I want to ask a question around that, because you speak about the expansion of your awareness and you're asking questions if this was your one and only life, because you're talking about these past life experience. the answer was no, but that you'd lived many lifetimes and reincarnated as both male and female
Mm.
and in different vocations. Tell us about the feeling and the emotions that you were having in these different lifetimes, and then that'll lead us up to the Kundalini awakenings and so on. But, I think that most people talk about reincarnation. Um, Many people don't have this camera that can go, let's just call it backwards, to actually see these things. And if they did, they'd probably question themselves about believing it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
talk
Entirely.
about some of, yeah, talk about some of them.
Well, I mean, firstly, there's a large percentage of people that believe that this is just our one and only lifetime. So, and that's perfectly fine too. I'm not here to convince anyone otherwise. It's been my experience that as a soul, we are immortal and we have many, many, many lifetimes. Many of us, especially the people that are engaged in what you're offering, Greg, are, one would say, old souls. We're looking to go to that next level. Um, the in that instance, we've had literally thousands of lifetimes, and in that instance, it was shown to me through these past life experiences, that, literally I had life as a healer, a pauper, a rich noble, a faithful knight, a prisoner, and pretty much everything in between, So, and living it as real as it is today, right here, with you and I talking, I could feel everything just that you touched on, feel the excitement, feel the pain, I could feel the anguish, the passion and the love, so I had awareness of all of this, but also the beautiful thing about these experiences is that, and this is where, as you talked about before, the gut instinct and things like that, your clear cognizance. I had knowingness of exactly what was happening in that lifetime. So I then got to understand the lessons that as a soul I learned in that lifetime.
Hmm.
Profoundly beautiful, because we really learned to start to tap into the wisdom of our soul from all of our incarnations. And that helps you and I right here in this lifetime, because there's wisdom in all of those that can apply now.
Yeah. No, I think this whole concept about remembering past life experiences and being able to recall those is fascinating. I know I don't, nor have I so far had um, that pleasure, because I think it would be quite pleasurable to be able to do that, because that might guide me into something else, just knowing what I would
Yeah.
know and knowing what I had lived through before. I believe in reincarnation. I believe it's going to happen. Um, Now look, when I knew you, you literally were teamed up with Holly, and
Yes.
Holly and you were guiding people through. She was doing channeling, and I'll call it channeling for the best things, and
Mhm.
guiding through Kundalini awakening at that time. What what
Mhm.
is it like to go and allow your soul to guide you to get in touch with a greater intelligence that is connected with this greater uh, universe? In other words, you guys were really doing some deep healing stuff together, and you
Yeah.
still are channeling today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I not I don't know how many of my podcast listeners have experienced being with a channel and having a channel. I know many of them have actually worked with people that have talked with them about the people that have passed before them
Mhm.
and bring messages back from the other side. So tell me what it's like, because you've had an amazing background that way.
Thank you, Greg. Yes, I mean, in that instance, working with Holly, we were doing the channeling piece. We're also doing, the soul activations, but also, a large amount of work on the Akashic Records. And
Right.
for people who may or may not know about the Akashic Records, it's tapping into the past lives and the stuff that you and I were just talking about a few minutes ago. Powerful guidance to bring, help you and I right now today. But coming back to your question, the channeling piece firstly, I want to tell everyone we all channel. There isn't anyone that doesn't channel. You get an insight. You say, "Wow, where did that come from?" You say something profound. Um, you're channeling. One would say your higher self. One would say your soul. So we are channeling all day, every day at various amounts and levels. We just don't tend to acknowledge it. It's when those people are sitting down, and especially the trance channelers, and they start making unusual movements or speaking in unusual ways. That's kind of a very much defined model of channeling. But honestly, we all channel pretty much all day, every day to various levels. For me, it's such an honor, now that this is a big part of my life. It's so profoundly beautiful, to have this additional level of guidance. And really, for me, my focus in life is to be in service to something so much greater, to be in service to anyone that, wishes to come and see me. Um, there's this beautiful greater intelligence within all of us, that's connected to the universe. It's there to bring in new knowledge, new teachings, new knowingness, new awareness. And it's always uplifting and expansive, to help, each of us, our souls here to help us. Um, you know, I honestly know a lot more about the universe and many other aspects of life. Unfortunately, just as you touched on earlier, there's some of the stuff I can't prove because, it's not like I can hold it up like a book and say, here it is, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily physical.
yeah. Unlike your
Yeah.
world, when you were an engineer, you can't really say, hey, look, this is physical. I know when we go to sleep at night, many of us travel. We go to different destinations and places, and that's
Mhm.
when a lot of people will tell you, I experienced a really vivid dream. You talked about vivid dreaming. Um,
Mhm.
you said this book would help set people up to actually have a good night's rest. That was one of the things you first started off with. Be great to like read one of these chapters before or set us up. What are some of the things people can do to actually kind of uh, move the out of body experiences
Mhm.
during a sleeping state and then remember those things as they wake up? Because I know I have them, I just don't always
Mhm.
remember them.
Well, that is a great question, Greg. I've spent several years, I don't do it at this point in time, several years doing sort of dream tracking and things like that. So my advice to the audience is yes, we all dream, whether you remember it or not. The soul never sleeps, so to speak. The body needs the rest, but the soul continues on to, other higher dimensional levels, one might say. Now, the way you can experience that in a more profound way, and I'm just going to give you some starting points here. I won't go into too much detail, but before you wake up, and this takes a little bit of practice, when you start to wake up, and if you try and remind yourself just before you go to bed that when you wake up, I'm going to catch myself. And what I mean by catching yourself is that you start to wake up, but the trick is to not move your body. Okay. When you start to move your body, what happens is your physical body wakes up. And you'll see people with sleep apnea and things like that when they when they can't breathe and the body has to wake up to allow them to breathe again, the body will tend to move. That's part of a mechanism that wakes the body up. So if you don't move, your body stays asleep and your consciousness starts to move to this, one would say, twilight zone, where you can go back, you can review, you can interact with your dreams. And you can go back and do that at a level where you now have a new level of awareness. And the beautiful thing about that is that you can then, when you do actually wake up, if you've got a book next to you, like a dream diary that I used to have, you can write the information down, the dreams down. You can interact more in your dreams, and you gain a lot of insight about who you are, what's happening in the world. Um, it's a beautiful way to do it. Whereas most of us tend to, when we wake up, we've got a few seconds of some awareness of the dreams, and then that all kind of just melts away. Um, and so, but if you can hold yourself in that twilight state, you are able to retain your dreams and information and interact with your dreams for much longer. You might sort of hold on to it for 5, 10, 15 minutes, enough time to start to write beautiful stuff down about what you experience. And we can all do it. It's not something that's special to someone. You don't need to have special training. It's just that trick of just as you start to wake up, remind yourself just before you go to sleep, and and then when you wake up, just with time, be patient with yourself. Try and not move. And if you don't move, you actually be surprised how much you can become aware and then still interact with your dreams.
I think the part about not moving is really a great tip for people.
Yeah.
The first thing you want to do is stretch or do something. I think just stay in this state of like altered state of consciousness that you
Mhm.
frequently wake up in, which is almost sometimes like a not a dizzying state, but a state of like disorientation sometimes even. Um,
Mhm.
and you have to be able to want to do that because the body naturally it wants to jump back in again and go back to this physical world. It doesn't want to stay in that state. Now, you and Holly were guiding through Kundalini awakenings, and it. I wanted to know what it's like to let go and allow your soul to guide you and get in touch with that greater connection of the universe. What is it like for you? What was it like for Holly? What did you guys experience?
You know, it's the first piece about it is really starting to learn to let go. When you let go, you start to experience more.
Mm-hmm.
There's a deeper inner knowingness that comes forward. Um, the the universe is here to be in support of us. The universe is here to help us, along with our soul. That no one or no thing is plotting against us. And so this opening up to that aspect um, allows a greater level of empowerment. You and I get clear on who we are, what we're here to do, what we need to do, what feels aligned, what doesn't feel aligned. We move to a deeper level of authenticity with ourselves. And so, Holly and I were working with people to help them find that. It's very empowering. And, you reach a point like, I'm clear on exactly who I am, what I'm here to do in this lifetime. And I'm every day I'm still physical, like you and I, we still have our challenges and we still need to learn and grow continuously. But I'm clear on what's aligned with me, what isn't, what I'm here to do. And so I still work through my humanness and my human challenges, but I embrace those challenges because I have a new level of awareness that this is my next step. And as Neil Donald Walsh says, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. So that's what it is. I really deeply understand that to grow and expand, we've got to get a little uncomfortable sometimes. And so that was that aspect of tapping into this greater universal knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean about tripping off to all sorts of planets and having all sorts of other experiences. Though that to some degree is part of it. But honestly, the real practical benefit, is that you and I can tap into this wisdom to help us every day. And that's the piece that I'm so excited to help people with because it really empowers us. And we also feel how we are all connected to a much deeper level. It really
Yeah.
helps.
Well, so where do you sit on this whole thing with psilocybin and using an alternate way to transform or move consciousness? So, ayahuasca, I come across all kinds of people who've tried microdosing to mushrooms to, whatever. And they
Mhm.
all seem to have an amazing experience. Some don't have some good experiences.
Yeah.
But when you want to talk about getting in touch with some deep rooted challenges that they maybe had in their life or issues they were dealing with, they seem to do this. Where do you sit with that, Paul Marwood? And what would you advocate to somebody that comes to you and says, hey, I really want to make a deeper dive than what's been happening with us? You recommend going to a place and getting some ayahuasca?
Well, I would definitely say yes to that. So I'll be completely transparent and completely honest here. I had some incredible multidimensional experiences in my awakening, and I still do literally almost every day today. Um, I had a friend, a shaman, who was very good at his work. I asked him to give me a psilocybin experience. He spent a lot of time preparing me, literally nearly a month. He was very thorough in his work. Spent like a 5.5 hour journey with the psilocybin. Profoundly beautiful. And so I completely agree with you, Greg. I'm not sure if you had gone down those avenues yourself, but what a beautiful mechanism in the right context
Right.
to give new awareness, new insight, um, it can help create guidance. Quite often when you deal with LSD, psilocybin, all those sorts of things, if you're in a bad space, the psychedelics can amplify the bad space, and so that's when people have bad trips, as they might say. I would encourage the audience, find someone who knows what they're doing, allow yourself to be in this beautiful, safe place, have some nice, safe conditions, music, the whole lot to support the mind space. And then you can go on that trip and be safe. And the insights that you gain from that, the ancient people, the Mayans, Anasazi, all of those people, they did that as part of the awakening of the youth into their manhood and various other levels of the elders, to gain further insight. So it is a very powerful way to gain insight. I
It
guess
is,
I'm blessed in
and
a way.
I think, Paul, that many of my listeners have probably experienced it. You asked if I
Yeah.
had, and I'll say I haven't, but I have many friends that have, and it's been something that I've been dancing around and thinking about, and who would I do it with, and there's so
Mhm.
many places you can go today where it's all guided and it's all set up and the environment's proper. And that's the only way that I would do it. I know that. Um, the guys that wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, um, not Mark Victor Hansen, the other guy, what's his name? He's
Jack
actually
Canfield.
Jack is leading groups to Costa Rica
Yeah.
to do ayahuasca, and it's actually been really good. Now, look,
Yeah.
let's talk about chakras, starting with the root chakra of safety,
Mhm.
prudence, self-defense, and struggle. Your perception was you were a soul having a human experience. Can you explain this experience and how this defined who Paul Marwood is today?
Firstly, as part of the process, as I would describe in the book, is this rising of the Kundalini through the chakras. So, for those of you that I'm sure most of the audience is familiar with chakras, primarily 7 chakras. There's many more than that, and each one has different aspects that affects works. One would say that they're the difference. They're the portal between the energy and the physical, and includes an emotional piece. So, the root chakra or Muladhara has Moldova so has helps us with safety, prudence, self-defense, struggle. It physically works with our adrenal glands, our skeleton, our backbone, spinal cord, kidneys, etc. So that chakra alone has, one would say, connections, relates to emotion, energy, but also the aura around us and our physical. And as it went through the various levels in my body, through the various chakras, so I had different experiences. And it was interesting. I didn't realize this and didn't put 2 and 2 together until I actually wrote my chapter in the book, because and that's the beauty about writing a book. Honestly, there's something about writing a book that's really healing and transformational. I suddenly became aware of this whole process of the levels and how I manifested experiences that related to that chakra, that point, those emotions, and the experiences relating to those emotions. And it really opened me up to this beautiful level of awakening, but all of the various aspects of awakening. So a deep appreciation of all of creation, how each and every one of us and everything is all connected. We're all part of this beautiful creation, both in the physical and non-physical realms, and honestly, things like an awareness of how important it is to strive to be in our highest vibration. You know, if only our politicians and world leaders, could witness this, because we would never have another war. They'd never harm another
Yeah.
being because you suddenly realize how connected everything is.
Between your lips and God, I say, because I certainly wish that would happen. I couldn't think of anything more appealing to have happen in this universe than to have political leaders that were aligned, loving, compassionate souls. I wish that it was all Dalai Lamas.
Mhm.
Then we might be in good shape. Now, I know that Holly was channeling, you were channeling as well.
Mhm.
Um, what is it like to channel profound teachers, and how did this lead to this multi-dimensional activations that lead to the acceleration of our ascension and our consciousness? Now, literally, you guys work together for it's been 12 years since. Is that correct? Is that about right?
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
guys got a
yeah.
divorce. Holly's still out there doing her thing. I've
Mhm.
seen her out on the internet. And the universe is kind of guiding. I want to know more about the unified field, the field of infinite possibilities, and how this is working for you right now.
Um, okay, multiple answers to your questions. First,
Well, there was two questions that I put in one there.
yeah, thanks, Greg. That's cool. I mean, profound teachers came in, I think, and honestly, this is open to anyone and everyone. We're all able to channel. When you're open, the teachers will appear. So in the case of Holly and I, we had, beings like Ishtara, Athena, the High Council of Orion, the Archangelic Realm, Metatron, Michael, Azrael, sorry, the elementals, dolphins, whales, they all came in to give us beautiful, loving, and expansive messages. Some personal for Holly and I, but most of them were actually for the audience to help people in many different ways have a deeper understanding about life, who we are, how we can expand ourselves, how we can become better people. And then part of those teachings, they taught us these soul activations, a multidimensional holographic structure that helps each and every person, accelerates our ascension. So 111 activation really helps us connect more to our self, our soul, our
So
essence, our knowledge.
all of these processes were given to you by these profound teachers over a course
Yeah,
of time that
yeah.
you then started practicing with your students on. Is that correct? Am I getting
Mhm.
this right?
Ourselves
Okay.
first.
Okay. Well, yourselves first, but the reality when you saw the differences it made in you, you needed to share it with others,
Yeah, most
right?
most definitely, most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. And you knew it was being channeled from right sources, whether it's Michael or it's any of the ones that you just mentioned. But the
Mhm.
reality is that for some of my listeners, they're not going to know what the heck we're talking about. For many of them, they're going to go, "Yeah, yeah, I know all about those teachers that are out there, and I can tap into them, and they're going to give me guidance." You could call them your archangels, you could call them whatever you want to, but they
Mhm.
really are there. You just need to be aware, and as you said, everybody can channel. So if that's the case, if people want to contact you at your website, you give them one-on-ones, but you also teach them how to access this higher power energy, correct? For themselves?
Yes,
Yeah.
I certainly do. And in a simplified way, in this instance, this is where we have the solution meditations come in. I can help guide people to start to open up to the unified field, the field of infinite possibilities.
Through the meditations.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And I think that's important because you're using meditation as the foundational area, and it's guided meditations that you're giving to
yes,
actually access this for your people that you're coaching, right?
yes,
Okay. That's important to know.
yeah,
Um, and I think it's important for the listeners to know that if they just go to paulmarwood.com and click book, they can book a time with you for you to speak with them, correct? And
yeah.
is the first session something that they get for free, or how do you work that? Okay.
Most definitely. Most
So,
definitely.
so I think
And
that's
honestly,
important for our listeners to know. If you just go to paulmarwood.com, upper right hand orange button, click it. It literally, you can book a session with Paul. And that first session is at no cost to you to literally get engaged and see what you think. Because I think Paul has more ways to get you connected and let you see the reality you're living through the channels that he's opened up in a much quicker way than you would normally go about this on your own, correct?
yes,
Because
correct.
that that's really the challenge is we don't have a lifetime to figure this out. We need some help along the way. And if you can help people get there quicker, you're the guy to help them uh,
Yeah.
see it in a different light, right?
Yes. And the important piece about this is it has, we're talking kind of an esoteric thing here, Greg, but the truth is that it has very practical benefits in yours and mine and everyone else's lives because it helps empower us. It helps us get clear. It helps us be more authentic. And so we don't bounce around like a pinball so much in our world. We get clearer, and then we know what we need to do, and we can move towards that. And so, and also when we have the challenges, we're excited about what do I need to learn in this challenge, rather than being in that place of the world's picking on me. So there's a lot of practical benefits in starting to look down this avenue, and I encourage everyone to just have a chat with me and see what it feels like, and if
I
it feels
really,
great.
I want to encourage my listeners to do that. Encourage them to go get the book. Now, look, I always love leaving listeners with something that they can contemplate. And there's three, if there were three things you'd like to leave this listening audience with today about connecting with their soul and the beauty and love that's available to them by making the effort to make this connection to a beautiful element of their being, what would you say to them right now? Look, there's one chapter in a book, but then there's 11 other people that have contributed as well. The book, definitely go get the book if you want to knock on the door. But if you want to knock on the door and have somebody open it, like Paul, who's been there, done that, go to Paul's website at paulmarwood.com and click on that button and just take a little bit of a dive initially to see what you think. But what are you going to ask the listeners to experience or be open to experiencing?
Well, firstly, I would say, even if you're sitting on the fence, yes, do it. Whether it's with me or anyone else, don't be afraid to connect with your soul and do that inner journey. This really is the most incredible journey you will ever have. So the first and most important is definitely yes, do it. Secondly, communication is really important in my world, and I hope in everyone's world. So I'm here in service. So if you need help, you can talk to me about any questions that you have. Things. So many of us say, "Oh, I don't think I can do this." It's like many people say, "I can't meditate." Well, you can. You don't have to sit still and quieten the mind. There's other ways of meditation. So yes, you can do that. I can help you with those pieces, and you can do it. And I'm here to help you. That's my whole purpose. And also, you know, when you have this greater, and thirdly, this greater awareness, as you have this and bring it into your life, it affects you, it affects all of those around you. And you start to have incredible synchronicities, you know, um, things just fall into place in your life. And that
Mhm.
happens because you really are more aligned with you and you're more on your path. And you have just more of an awareness of yourself and the world around you. But that could include the non-physical as well. I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. And so that makes your whole life, your whole journey through life, doesn't matter who you are. You can be a plumber, an electrician, an accountant, an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter, but it starts to add a much more profound beauty into your world, into your life. It doesn't make you weaker. It doesn't make you mindless. It actually makes you stronger. It makes you clearer. It makes you more aware of who you are, what you're here to do, and how you can help others in whatever way, whether it's just doing their tasks, and it makes you move through life with more ease, more grace. And that's a beautiful way. Most of us are striving to be more connected to love and who we really are. And so, what is our life purpose? And so this helps you do that. And that's what I would recommend for everyone. And
Well,
I
and I
really
think
wish.
I think there's with least resistance. There's this old saying goes way back. All my listeners may have heard it. Knock and the door shall be opened.
Yeah.
Ask and it should be given unto you. Now the second one's a little bit more biblical, but you have to knock first and then you have to ask. You have to take the steps. So if there was two simple things you could do, it would be to knock on Paul's door and then to ask Paul for help and that you'd like to get this kind of help now. Um,
Yeah.
and the third thing is we know when you do that, it is given unto you.
Mm.
Uh, how it's going to happen, you don't know how it's going to unfold. You can't be attached to the outcome. You
Yeah.
just have to be open to the process. In the process is to just get engaged. Go do something, as you said 10 minutes ago. We have to stretch ourselves. And this is the stretch to actually go, well, this guy sounded kind of strange and weird and whatever. But at the same time, you know what? Why not go into a little bit of that strange and weird world
Mm.
and see what happens and see what transforms for you in the process? And Paul Marwood, I want to thank you for being on. Hold that book up again if you would, so that my listeners can get a peek of it. It's called Soul Love, and you can get that through Amazon. And you're going to go to paulmarwood.com to reach out to Paul. There's the site is loaded with content. So there's no lack of you spending time there figuring out what Paul is doing. Namaste to you, my friend. Thank you so much for being on with us today and sharing
Thank
your
you, Paul.
wisdom and your insights and your stories that should hopefully inspire people to take some action. Thanks,
I
Paul.
hope so. Thank you, audience.